when you watch them, do they kind of present the same checking challenges that maybe New Jersey does as far as being a physical team that likes to?
I think there's some similarities. They got some high-end talent that drives offense. Bottom of the lineup's a little more north-south type of players. I think both teams have tried to balance how they play the game in terms of defending and managing the puck versus more of a wide-open style. And it's obviously working for both of them. They're both in a playoff position, so probably see more of that type of game that we did on Sunday against New Jersey than maybe you would see in Toronto's years past. And it was certainly like that up there. I think it was a 1-0 game into the third period, and a little tighter checking than, as I said, probably years ago.
The players seem pretty interested in the trade deadline. They're asking lots of questions.
What are they asking?
They want to know who's going where.
Okay. Any updates?
No.
No.
Do you pay attention like that? Do you kind of do any doodling yourself, like, hey, if we got this guy, I could put him here, or do you just kind of wait until things come to fruition?
Well, listen, we coaches and GMs talk, right? So how's your team look? Where there's a little bit of that at first, and then make it specific with a player or two, especially if you've had him previously. I think some of that knowledge could help, or someone on the staff has had him. But other than that, I'm like everyone else. I got the TV on, and if something happens, curious to see what the deals look like. A lot of times there's talk about guys that never happened to, so you got to be careful that way a little bit. You don't start thinking, oh boy, I heard we might get whatever, this guy or that guy. But I think it's human nature to sort of imagine, I guess, if there were players available, how they'd fit. And then you hope at the end of the day they go east if they don't come here, right? I mean, Seth Jones was a big ad for Florida, and glad that he went that direction and not into a team that we're competing with.
How differently do you feel about the team from the beginning of the year to now? Like, that Toronto game was a while back. Like, how differently do you feel about you guys?
From that Toronto game or from, like, training camp?
Either way.
Well, training camp, there were some unknowns about replacing scoring that was established that we felt we could do. I think we've addressed that a lot with guys like Pav and Howie, and we thought internally Coley could upgrade, give us a bump, etc. Felt good about the rest of our game. Defensively, I thought we were going to be solid because we had our four centermen that we rely on. The defense core was back. Aiden won a cup, so we got a goalie in there. So I think we're on track, kind of where we thought we would be. I thought maybe early in the year we'd defend a little better as opposed to outscoring some teams. I would say that but it was still wins. That's probably been maybe the surprise that I wouldn't have guessed right out of the gate. Now it's kind of falling more into how I would see it going, and here we are. We're competing for first place in our division. I felt our team was going to be solid, and you never know how the other teams are going to look till they start playing, but that's how I envision would be, and here we are. The Toronto game, I honestly don't remember a lot about it. Early in the year, we did not play well on the road for whatever reason. We got that squared away a little bit better second half of the year. So it'll be interesting to see how tonight goes. We're a better team than we were then. I don't know if they would probably say that too, because most teams should be getting better. So it should be a good contest. Two teams that are at the top of their division, near the top. Usually means good hockey, two teams with expectations, and some star power on each side.
Is scoring the thing you're still feeling like maybe can use the most improvement, or is there somewhere else?
A while ago I thought it was our checking game, and I said this, I think in January we didn't get the results, but we were checking much better. We lost some games in Long Island, the Rangers, probably list a few more where I thought we checked well enough to win. Now it's, are we going to score enough? I believe we will score enough. I think coaches would say, can we score a little bit easier? And right now, we're not scoring as easy as we'd like to. There's some guys that have been, tough puck luck, whatnot. I think that will come around, but we're still finding ways to win those games because we're checking well. So that's the area you hope would happen. If some be able to extend leads a little easier, be better for everybody. But Doesn't always work that way, right? But that's an area that I guess if you're asking me a wish list, would be on it.
Bruce, as a coach, do you have to balance big picture, small picture? Meaning, you guys have been top 5 in the league most of the year. Yet, you went through a difficult stretch last month and in January. But you try to keep that you guys have been in a real good spot for most of the season.
Yeah, I would say you're always balancing that, but be careful. You better stay in the moment and worry about what's right in front of you as a coach, because it can get away from you. I do think you have to have objectives in mind. By that I mean, are you building some of the players lower in your lineup so that down the road they're confident they can play against top players? That's a big picture thing to me. Developing a fourth line, giving those maybe your third pair D more responsibility at times. Those are things that you have to go into the year thinking, okay, by March, are we much farther along than we were in, say, November with those guys, right? That's a big picture thing. Not overusing your top guys all the time so they have something left in the tank. And I will say we probably have overused them by a minute or so, a couple of guys, Stoney, Jack, but a little bit of that is injury related. You lose some centers like Nick for extended period, Carly for next extended period, Jack's going to get leaned on. So some of that gets outside your control too, Ghosh, that you'd rather not do, but you have to, because like I said, you got to stay current. You got to make sure you're winning your games in the moment with whoever's in the lineup. And sometimes that you're not thinking about tomorrow when you do that. So that's the balance. Now, I'd like to think we're good enough and far enough along now that the big picture stuff, we can continue to build in. But, I mean, I've said it. You look at teams and it can go in a, you're right at the Rangers this year, good example. It seemed like they were right there and now they're fighting to get in. So it can change in a hurry. So you got to be a little bit careful of that too.
You had so many guys coming off the break and then load management on the Four Nations players, yourself coming off that. Are you back to normal, in a normal rhythm now?
I think so. I think the players got, was it last week? They got 4 days. We kept them away from practice except game day. Hilly was a little different because he was playing and hadn't gone through the same rigors the other guys had there. So I think we are now. Now we figured yesterday was probably after yesterday. It's going to be, now it's like practice, game. What do we do? Because it's game every second day almost for a stretch here. We go on the road. So practices are going to be minimal, probably morning skates. So that certainly makes the whole team now back to the same page. We had a few extra practice days. We told those guys to stay away. Hopefully it helped a little bit. I don't think it's the same as a break because it's not consecutive. And your team is still out there. And there's part of you as a player, it's like, God, our guys are practicing. I should be there. You know what I mean? Like you can't completely, I think, check out mentally when your teammates are skating. So, but we did what we could, and hopefully it helps them stay refreshed down the stretch here.
What are you hoping to see in that swap with Pearson and Olofsson?
Well, it just felt like Nick and Pierce hadn't, they haven't had a lot of offensive moments. Not that that's their primary role, but there are forwards, and forwards need to, feel good about their offensive game. So we just decided to make a little switch, Pierce up with Jack. Pierce will go to the net. He's a net driver, and I think that's always what works best with Jack. That's why Barber's been so good. Ole has some of that in his game, but he's also a shooter, so maybe putting a skill guy with Nick a little bit, a different flavor will help him as well. That's all. It's just a little bit of switching what guys typically do or their identity and see if it helps going forward, and we can easily switch it back. We're not set in stone with any of our lines anyway. Although when I say that, I like Hurdle as Pav as a pair. I like Jack and Barbie as a pair. Nick and Coley have always. So eventually we'll probably find our way back to some of that as we get healthier.
We saw Schwint in the regular jersey. Is he right back in the lineup as soon as he's available, or is it performance dependent?
It's probably performance dependent. I mean, he hasn't played in a while. He's not cleared yet to go in, but he is in a normal jersey, so that's the next one more step is probably contact, and which he had some today, and then see where he's at. But we'll have to look at that. I don't know Lavoie's status as a regular call-up or an injury. I don't know enough of that. So it may be because of that. Otherwise, that's something we'll decide when he's ready, how the team looks and the lines look.